Hello, Sports Reports is ordered, is here. Mr. Logical, and I'm 2-5. Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is ordered. So, tonight, we got some business to tend to. You know, we're going to get it started with a little get it off my chest. Mr. Logical wants to talk some boxing, and I got another coach in my crosshairs. Then we're going to talk about the NFL, what's going on in the league. We got our first head coach firing, and it was not Todd Bowles. So both of us got that one wrong, but this guy deserved it. He deserved it. Then, you know, we're going to talk about a little bit of association. And guess what, y'all? The jig is up. Harbaugh, you're done in this town. You're out of here. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
You about to get $200 million.
You know what I'm saying? Sports Reports is ordered. Here on a Wednesday night. Let's get it started. So, Mr. Logical, you know, like, there's a lot going on in the sports world. You know, like we talked about.
A lot. It's exciting.
We got the World Series going on right now. You know, we could crown a champion tonight. You know, still 0-0 going into the top of the seventh. Zach Gallen with the no-hitter so far.
First start in the World Series history with 0 innings to the first 0 hits to the first 6 innings. That's what just popped up. Yeah.
So you know, I picked Arizona to win this series. So, you know, I'm pulling for them. But, you know, we may crown a champion tonight. You know, but first, I guess it's about that time, ladies and gentlemen. Get it off my chest.
Talk about some other champions. We'll talk about the other champions, the other fight, the boxing champions. We all saw the reaction. Maybe a lot of people didn't see the actual fight between Ngannou and Tyson Fury. I started watching around like the 6th when Mike texted me saying that he had got knocked down. Oh, he just gave up a hit. I jinxed it. The commentators think that happens. So
that's how you know we made it. You know, you get to do the commentator
when you start affecting the universe. You know what I mean? When you start affecting the universe, that's how you know you made it. So hopefully I can affect the universe in this way. Tyson Fury had the fight with Francis Ngannou. It looked, if it was two genuine heavyweights, the fight wouldn't have been that exciting. The excitement aspect of it was Ngannou is this MMA guy. He's not a big talker. He's not a big, you know, outspoken guy like a Conor McGregor. The McGregor Mayweather thing was crazy. But it looked like he just was methodical, tracked him down, cut off the ring, took some shots, delivered some shots, and really had Tyson Fury like off balance. I don't know how one judge scored it 96-93 with a knockdown, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm on Facebook in one of our sports groups, have a conversation with a guy, and Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua's promoter, said that, you know, came out and said, listen, Anthony has no interest in fighting Ngannou. He was like, he wants to fight for belts and belts only. So I'm going back and forth with this guy. So all we really know is what his promoter said. So I'm having a conversation with this guy, and he was like, man, he should do it. I'm like, what's the upside? Like, there's no reason to fight Ngannou. Like, what's the upside? He was like, money. I'm like, Anthony Joshua's net worth is $50 million. I think it might have been 50 million pounds or $50 million. I wasn't sure. But either way, it's 50 million. Yeah, so he'll get a little money, but what's worth it? If you want to fight for belts and championships in the heavyweight division, fighting an MMA guy in an exhibition fight is not going to get you there. He was like, how do we know he feels that way? I was like, literally, the article said from his promoter, Anthony told me I don't want to do this. Like, I have no interest in doing this. I want to fight for belts. He was like, the promoter don't speak for him. I'm like, that's literally what his job is. His job is to you know, represent his client. His client is Anthony Joshua. Like, that's all we know. All we know is that he said that he talked to Joshua, and this is what he said. He's like, man, you're still the money. I'm like, listen, I get it. If they make him offer, he can't refuse, and you want to go for the money, go for the money. But if you want a belt, you can't just keep running to this Jake Paul, Logan Paul realm of boxing where it's just purely entertainment and there's not any cachet to it. And he has way more to lose than Ngannou. Nagano lost and got more respect from the public than everybody else. And just like that, Texas is up. He got more
Mhm.
respect. Tyson Fury looked like he's about to retire again. But does Joshua want to put himself in that position where he's fighting this unorthodox strong man? Because like Nagano's not like McGregor. McGregor is probably a strong dude for regular people. Like he can get in the ring with a regular sized dude that's 170, 175 pounds, and it's like, oh, this dude's really strong. Nagano is like he's carved out of concrete. Like that's a different kind of African Cameroon. Like that's a different kind of beast. It's not the same as McGregor and Mayweather. The two of them together, they were 296 pounds. They walk around 296. Nagano is like 250. So that's not the same kind of fight. So when we get in these groups, it's like, listen, I get that you want this to happen, but we got to think logically. What makes the most sense for the fighter? What makes the most sense in this conversation is like, well, his promoter said that he didn't want to do it. I don't know anything else other than that. So if you don't want to do it, you shouldn't have to do it. It makes sense. Tyson Fury kind of let people know like this might not be a good idea. So I'm gonna run it with that. So Facebook fans, I get it, man, but like, come on. It's not gonna happen. The best case scenario you should ask for is Wilder versus Nagano because I don't know if Wilder really has the cachet left to fight for a belt because of the way he was dominated by Tyson Fury. The way he got dominated, even in the fight that was a draw, we all expected it to be a win for him. So he can do these side case fights. He could fight Logan Paul or Jake Paul if they want to like go on heavyweights and make a lot of money because of his name. Because I don't think anyone's gonna believe that he's gonna win a heavyweight championship bout. But Joshua, I think people still got a little faith in him. I would say, stick to your guns and try to get another title shot because it looks like Tyson Fury might give his belt up through retirement. So someone's got to fight for it.
Well, I need Anthony Joshua to take it back to like 2016 or 17 because him and Wilder still owe me a fight. Like those two
Man,
need to get together. That was supposed to be the big heavyweight fight that was going to be the generational fight, and we never got it. So it's time. And they're younger
for
than
no
Pacquiao and Mayweather
reason.
were. So, give it to us. But speaking of Pacquiao, I saw today that Mr. Pacquiao, Senator Pacquiao, might be willing to fight Tank. And I'm gonna advise Pacquiao to stay up in your office with your suit on
I
and
wouldn't
keep
watch that
that
fight
face
if he
clean.
invited me to Vegas.
Oh, I'll
I
watch
love
it.
Vegas. Vegas is my one of my favorite cities on earth. I wouldn't watch that fight if Pacquiao invited me to sit in his corner in Vegas.
All right.
We don't
So
want that fight. Like we don't want that fight. Get the boxing fans what they want. Y'all haven't given us what we wanted in years.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So get it off my chest. I had some words for Coach Prime. I had some words for Mr. Sweeney. And he's still at it too. He's got people calling into the show. I think it was a plant. The dude called the show and was like, Dabo went on about appreciation and like, no, appreciation is that $11 million contract you got. That 11 million a year. That's appreciation. You don't get to come out here and go 4-4 and tell people that they don't appreciate you. Like, come on now. But that ain't the coach that I got my eye on this week. I got my eye on Mr. Pat Narduzzi of Pittsburgh fame, and I know what y'all thinking. I'm not going at him just because they play Florida State this week. This is legit.
But he said the same thing about the Oilers jersey he put on. So
Yay, yay, Warren Moon,
who
baby.
knows?
I was not trying to rub salt in the wounds. I was trying to find something to wear, and it just came, Anyway, let me get on with this. So Pat Narduzzi went to South Bend and got bent over 58-7. 58-7, I said. This is a Power 5 team playing against Notre Dame and lost by 51 points. Never mind the fact that Pitt and Notre Dame is basically a rivalry too. And Pitt has been known to spoil Notre Dame seasons and all this kind of stuff. Forget all that. Let's go to after the game. because Pat Narduzzi always talking about everybody but himself. Because Mr. Logical brought it up before where, he was calling out Coach Prime for the NIL and the transfers and all this kind of stuff, and he lost Jordan Addison to USC. So I get why he was upset. But anyway, this is what he said. I don't know if you heard this or not, but this is what he said after the game, after the loss to Notre Dame. Quote, as a football coach, you lose a lot of good players from a year ago, and you think as a coach, you're going to replace them. And obviously, we haven't. Again, end quote. So, hold on. So, last time I checked, this ain't the NFL. Like in the NFL, your GM goes and brings in Jimmy Garoppolo whether you want him or not. Like your GM, Kirk Cousins gets hurt, go get Josh Dobbs. Whatever. Like this is what your GM does.
We'll talk about that too, yeah.
Yeah, this is what your GM does. As a college coach, you are 100% responsible for who is on your roster. These players that are not good enough, you thought they were good enough at one point or another. They were good enough a couple of weeks ago when y'all beat Louisville and gave Louisville their only loss of the season. I guess they weren't good enough when y'all lost to West Virginia in the backyard brawl. So, of course, a couple of players got on Twitter, and they're like, oh, that's crazy. Like, huh? Like, he said, what? Huh? And so then he comes back after the fact, cleans it up and says, quote, again, it starts with me. I didn't do a good enough job coaching today. Put it on me. We've got to make plays. End quote. That's what you should have said in the first place. Because you know why? You're not Coach Prime. Coach Prime can get out here and criticize his offensive linemen, even though I wouldn't do that because they got to protect my son. But I wouldn't do that. But, Coach Prime did that. But the difference is Coach Prime has the charisma. He has the personality that can get these guys back on track. You done lost this team now. Y'all lost by 51 points, which was already bad enough. And you come out here saying that you wish you had the players that you had last year. Now, you should have been in line for that Michigan State job, being that you were the defensive coordinator there before you came to Pitt, but now that's probably gone. Probably. Granted, y'all gonna get mollywopped by Florida State this week, during the early season. This was supposed to be an upset alert. It's not. But next week, Syracuse and Pitt at Yankee Stadium. I want to see it, but I don't want to see Narduzzi. Get him out of Pittsburgh. Get him on somebody's staff, not as the head guy, because he still got some lessons he needs to learn about people management. Now these guys went out there. Did they play well? Not at all. But there's a way that you go about it, and that is not the way. It's just, these coaches, man. But Dabo, back to Dabo real quick. He had the guy call the show, and he talking about, I won 2 national titles in 7 years, and the only other teams that can say that is Georgia and Bama. What did Clemson do for the first 150 years before I came along? And I'm like, hell yeah, Dabo. Somehow I was against Dabo, but he said that, and I was like, there you go, grab your nuts. You know what I'm saying? The problem is, though, is that you're still a whiny brat, because it can't just be, hey, this is what I've done for Clemson. XYZ, end the story. You're like, damn. Versus, y'all don't appreciate me. You getting $11 million to not go 4-4, to not lose to Miami with a freshman quarterback starting his first game in overtime, to not lose to Duke on opening night, and you still got North Carolina left, even though, they ain't looking so good right now, but still, saying you still got South Carolina in the rivalry game. And oh, by the way, South Carolina pulled down your pants last year. So, just get it together, man. And oh, by the way, they get Notre Dame this week.
Yeah, you got to check your ego, man.
So, but like real quick.
You got leave your ego at the door. Like, come do your job.
Yep, but real quick, while we on the subject of college football, it just wouldn't be right if we didn't talk about the playoff rankings. Because I feel like, I ain't even set up a banner for this one, because this is just a get it off my chest continuation. You know what I'm saying? But I want to get Mr. Logical's thoughts first. Was there anything that stood out to you?
I did some that did stand out. That I do kind of appreciate from the committee. We got 6 SEC schools. We got 6 Pac-12 schools, 3 Big Ten, 5 Big 12 schools. I like that Ohio State's won because you're going to talk. You can get more in depth with that.
And OKC about to lose this game that I turned off, right?
OKC.
Yeah, they're about to lose. They were up by like 15 when I turned the channel to watch some action, and now they're down by 2 with 19 seconds left. But
Hey,
I'm
listen,
waiting. I'm waiting for Lakers and Clippers to get started here.
it's a game of runs.
But yeah,
I think college. I think just the sports in general. Like I said, we spent this whole summer just having a lot of conversations in between filming because it was like it wasn't that much going on with sports. There wasn't a lot of big free agents in the summer. It was rumored trades. It was like potential injuries. It wasn't a lot of firings. It wasn't. It didn't seem like a lot of like drastic movement that kind of just carried the sports talk through the summer. So we were doing a lot since college football and the NFL. Now the NBA is back. Now you're wrapping up baseball, and then we have these fights. So boxing is kind of like I've been banging on boxing all year because I'm like, you guys got the momentum. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't slow down. Don't start doing what boxing does. So we've been kind of building this sports momentum all year. I've watched. I got sports on iPad. I have it on the phone. I talked to you about it. My dad texted me about it. Like we've always talked a lot about sports, but just seeing it and watching a lot of it. So college football has been exciting. You got the coaches out there who normally used to just win all the time crying because the transfer portal is starting to like take shape. I think the people who have a good grip on how to use the portal, where to reach, what time to reach, what kind of players are getting. Are they tracking players that like okay, for instance, Dion is at Colorado. Is he tracking players that he might think he can be able to pull from Michigan State? Is someone on his staff? I don't know how legal it is. I know we got the Harbaugh with the stop sign stealing. Are they watching their social media? Are they, if they have NIL deals, did they get their NIL deal through like some kind of agency? Are they building a relationship with that agency? So it's like the people who know how to use these things. Dabo is one of those guys that says, hey, I'm not going to use the transfer portal. He's a fool because he has so much money back with the Nike school and the championships that he really didn't have to really work hard in the portal.
that's what you
He
got
could,
coordinators for.
you could just put it out there like, hey, Cade Klubnik is either not holding his weight or he is, but he has one more year. So he's already, he sat out, he had last year, I started this year. So if you're a quarterback, you're like, you know what? I got 3 years off eligibility. They don't seem to be pulling in any top recruits. Let me take my 5-star talent, out to Death Valley. So I think the coaches that are using the portal properly, I think Lincoln Riley uses it. He uses the fact that he's in California. Dion talked about how he got Travis Hunter to sign at Jackson State. He's like, I brought him down for homecoming. He's like, that's all. He's like, that was it. He came down homecoming weekend. He's like, I had him. He's like, as soon as he got out to campus and it was homecoming weekend, he looked around. He said, I looked at him and I was like, I knew I had him right then. And whatever advantage you have to use legally, of course. So I think sometimes like these coaches that aren't really charismatic, a lot of these coordinators, these X and O's guys, you might not be able to do it. I see a guy like Cliff Kingsbury getting a job and being able to use, like, he's a tall, handsome former quarterback, still in good shape. Like just you could just put him on TV and your mom might not know anything about football, but she's like, who's this coach? Like, oh, that's the coach at Michigan State now. They sent me a recruiting letter. So, oh, really? I like him. He seems very charismatic. Now you're having conversation with him. Dion the same way. So, Nick Saban has that old preacher kind of swag to him, that Southern, I bring you chicken and macaroni and cheese to the meeting kind of like swag.
Yeah, and a gnat on
So
a dog's ass.
Yeah, so like exactly. I mean, he messed it up at first, but he was because when he said that, I was like, I don't know, he might be trying to slide that Arkansas quarterback over. Like, come on, man, come east a little bit. I got you. But yeah, so I think college football is in a good position. I think these rankings we're going to talk about. I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about it between now and the weekend. Why isn't Georgia number one? Why is Oklahoma not above Texas? But they have so many more games to play out. That's the best part. The BCS was crazy because it seemed like no one really knew the formula, and all we knew was like the top two teams were going to get it, and it was going to be very generic.
Well,
Now it has to play out. Like I know Alabama is 8, they're going to play LSU, and the winner of that, someone's going to have to. The loser of that's going to drop.
that's the funny thing that people always tell me. They say, bring back the BCS. The BCS wasn't biased. The humans still came up with the formula. Like the humans still decided what they wanted to track,
They came up
so
with a formula, and the simple way was like, what was the strength of schedule?
yeah.
Well, the strength of schedule is based off the AP poll, which is human, which is almost felt like that was exclusively. I don't know what the formula was, but that felt like it was 65% of the pie.
Well, I know that like there was one year the BCS pissed me off because TCU and Boise both finished undefeated, and they made them play each other in the bowl, instead of playing somebody else because can't you know
Because
can't have that
in
happen.
Boise, can a team from Idaho be the national champion?
Yeah, and but looking back at these rankings though, so Mr. Logical is correct. I have no problem with Ohio State being number one because I looked at the schedule. Because everybody talks about this. Who has the best win in college football? So is it Texas's win over Alabama? Is it Oklahoma's win over Texas? Is it Washington's win over Oregon? Who has the best win? And Ohio State said, we got 2 of them. We got Notre Dame and Penn State. Holla at your boy. Saying y'all arguing about the best win. We got multiples. So I'm fine with Ohio State being number one, even though I will full disclosure admit that I don't think Ohio State is the best team in the country. But that's not what the rankings are. The rankings are not 2-5's opinion. We take what happens on the field and we apply it. So Ohio State.
Yeah, but I thought the college football playoff was the whole. If you put these two teams on a neutral field, do you think Alabama's better than Ohio State? Because that's what it ultimately boils down to.
I'm
When it
glad
gets
you
close,
said that. I'm glad
as
you
it gets
said that.
close, it gets close. When it gets tight, that's the kind of
well, you know
rhetorical
why?
question
Because
you
every
hear.
year the committee changes. So, it's just like when we were going up for these master sergeant boards and all this stuff. And the one year, they're like, we want the whole airman concept. And then the next year, they're like, where's the education? And
Man,
then,
one year I went up, I got my board score, and then somebody sent me a PowerPoint slide breaking down all the point system and everything else and
yeah,
what you had to have. And this is a point total you're gonna get. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I worked towards that based off of that. Then I got my board score the next year. Luckily, I still made it, but my
yeah.
board score was 15 points lower than
Because they
what it
changed
was the year
people that
before
value
because
different
they
stuff.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like,
So,
good
so,
thing,
so that's
good
why
thing
every
I
year,
scored well.
so that's why every year, the conversation becomes, on the playoff show, the conversation becomes, is it the 4 best teams or is it the 4 most deserving teams? And that's where you get into the window of subjectivity because I can tell you, even if I say who the most deserving teams are, it's still biased by whatever I value. If I say who the 4 best teams are, it's biased by who I watched and thought was the best. So, like we talk about Michigan, how they played nobody. Michigan has had 61% of their snaps this season with at least a 14-point lead. That's good enough for being number one. I mean, even though they haven't.
That's the argument that's the piece you can say. You know what? We are so good that almost 2/3 of the game we're up. So you get to 8 minutes in the first quarter, we're already up 14 points.
Right.
Like,
And so,
that's crazy.
but the problem is that you play that game, right? What's Michigan's best win? Then you're like, Rutgers. maybe Nebraska, maybe UNLV, who's 6-2 because they lost to Fresno State the other day. So you can have that argument. Georgia, do you put them at number one just because they are the defending national champion 2 times over? I say no. A lot of people say yes. They feel like the champ is the champ until they're not the champ. Only problem is it's a different team. That's the only thing. If Stetson Bennett was back, maybe that's a conversation because we've seen it before. But we got a whole lot of defensive players. Florida State had the win over LSU. And I feel like people are holding the BC game against Florida State, even though that was like 5 weeks ago. People are still holding that game against Florida State saying,
But
well,
I
look how
think I think they're properly positioned.
No, I think so too.
Because
But
you have
I would probably put them
Michigan's
in front of
dominance,
Michigan.
but you have Michigan's dominance and
Right.
Michigan's like that stat you just mentioned, Matt. I mean, Mike always comes through with the stats. I'm gonna start calling you Matt with the stats. But yeah, Mike always comes through with the stats. So being essentially dominant in your performances, because every top team has played a team that's a couple of tiers below them because they are so much better than the rest. Georgia's that much better than the rest of the field, Michigan, Ohio State, and they've all played teams where it could have been close, it could have been tough. Michigan's like, nah, we're not even entertaining that idea of a close game. They didn't have their head coach for the first 3 games, and they didn't miss a beat. That's how good of a team they are.
And I think they were switching the head coach. Like this week it's you, next week is you.
Yeah, so I think that ironically their legal transgressions, which caused them to lose their coach and his availability, and they still come out and dominate. That's a testament to how good of a team they are. Florida State has LSU, and I think people feel like LSU is the darling, and I think people are wishing that LSU only had 1 loss. Because
see, and that's the other part of the argument. They got 2 losses. One of them was to us.
But he's having the best season as a Heisman candidate with 1 loss. Caleb Williams 2 weeks ago would have been behind Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams. Both have been behind Jaden Daniels because of the season that he's having and the teams that he's playing and his projected schedule of playing SEC schools. So I think that would have been like probably perfect because I would have just moved Ole Miss out. I don't really think people really want Ole Miss in, and probably at the end of the year, Ole Miss is going to play at 3, maybe 4 losses.
Well, they got A&M this weekend at home. They go to Athens next week to get some of the Bulldogs.
Yeah,
they still got the Egg Bowl.
They seem like the type of team that will stumble and lose a game and just play poorly and just lose a game to Texas A&M, or play poorly and get dominated by Georgia, something along those lines. So, but like LSU, just the defense was not on par in the Ole Miss game. And against Florida State, like I said, you got a 22, 23-year-old quarterback that's kind of understanding thing. It was the first game, early season game. So I don't think people hold it against them because Florida State is a top 4, potentially top 3, in your opinion, team. It's just unfortunate that the losses have to count.
Right.
They have to count. They have to be rated accordingly. Got them. Have to be rated accordingly. And we have to just accept the fact that the college football, no matter what the format is, if you are a Power 5 school and you are perennially a top team, if you go undefeated, you're in. If you have 1 loss, you better hope 4 other schools have 1 loss. But it's simple. You got to go undefeated. No matter what the format, the score sheet, the voting, you got to go undefeated in order to solidify your position. If you're outside of that, Air Force, Cincinnati, Tulane, Houston, one of these other teams, yeah, it's going to be you might get invited, or you might get a real nice bowl game.
Well, USC's got a chance to flip all this upside down because they got Washington coming into the Coliseum this weekend, and then next week they go out to Autzen to play the Ducks. So USC win one of those 2 games, they shake up the whole top 5. If they beat Washington, we have that conversation of Oregon and Washington, because Washington beat them head to head a couple of weeks ago in Seattle.
No, that means the Pac-12 starts at 10. That's all that means. Look, legit. Like I think because we talked about this before with the TCU, Ohio State, and Baylor when the first iteration came out of this, and it seemed to follow that same path. They keep everybody in there initially. A lot of SEC schools are up there, so that the head-to-head matchup and the strength of schedule argument is like, oh, you mean to tell me that Georgia can't get in what they have? They only have one loss, and that was a number 6 ranked Alabama. That argument, or Alabama lost to this team, but they came back. Like that back and forth antiquated argument. So I think they set up that way. But if you're like a Pac-12 team or Big 12 team, and you're near the 5, 6, 7 range, and you have a slip up, you're going to 9. And if you're another team and you're like 8, and you already have one loss at 8, and you lose, you're going to 12 to 13. And that's going to elevate all those other schools. It's just a way that it works. I don't know if it's a region, if it's the regional part of it. I don't know if it's the matter of which teams travel better, which teams are hotter, which teams generate more money as far as television. Because if we had hypothetically, they just would say, hey, our undefeated teams are in the top 4. And you got number 1 Ohio State versus number 4 Air Force, because Air Force is undefeated. Like, Air Force doesn't even fill their own stadium in Colorado Springs. They're not filling a stadium in Arizona.
Jerry World.
They're not filling Jerry World. So it's like we got to be realistic to it's yes.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business.
It's a business. It's a nonprofit.
That's why we going to 12 teams next year.
Ironically.
That's why we going to 12 teams next year, so we can get more money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so.
Because the 12 seed is not going to win it all next year.
Right.
It just is not the kind of college football is not the kind of sport where the Cinderella wins it all.
So I was trying to look down the list, look down the rankings, and try to find, is there a one-loss team that's out there that's not in the top 4 or 5 right now that can crash the party? And before the season started, I said Louisville was going to be the closest thing to TCU that we have, but I don't think Louisville is going to get high enough to do it, but so the only team that I can really see down here is Penn State, because Penn State still has Michigan and Ohio State. I'm sorry, they already played Ohio State. They still have Michigan in front of them. So Penn State, gets by Maryland this weekend, I think, and then they set up the match with Michigan next weekend in Happy Valley.
You got Penn State as your potential. They can crash it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they will, but I'm just saying, like, they just have the schedule to do it because they play, Michigan. And then, of course,
let me check out Ole Miss real quick. See who they can disrupt real quick.
Well, Ole Miss got Georgia next week, so I'm eliminating Ole Miss just off of that. Like,
I mean, yeah.
I mean, they could beat Georgia. Don't get me wrong. They got the talent.
But they won't disrupt it.
Right.
They won't disrupt it because Georgia will just go to 5.
Right. And then Ole Miss
maybe even 4.
And Ole Miss would probably just lose somewhere else down the line.
Yeah.
They already beat LSU. They already lost to Bama. So, like I said, they got A&M this weekend. They got Georgia next weekend. So, you'll just have to go from there. Looking at Oregon, everybody seems to think that we're going to get this Oregon-Washington rematch in the Pac-12 title game, but all it takes is for Caleb Williams to get hot next week and all that's done, but you look at Texas and Oklahoma, they got that head-to-head situation.
Caleb Williams' heart still in it, though?
Well, this is my thought. We'll find out this weekend. And the reason that I say that is because he's got Penix coming in there, who is either a Heisman front runner or number 2 or number 3. So as a Heisman guy, or as the Heisman, or still a guy who has Heisman aspirations. Yeah. Do you take that personal? Do you
take it personal? Or you can be a number 1 quarterback, number 1 pick overall, though.
maybe maybe that's Penix's, like that's Penix's take personal. You know
Yeah,
what I
but
mean?
Caleb Williams, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going out there and play hard because you can't survive in this game without playing hard. The
Right,
only way you can survive without playing hard if you are on the bench.
right.
Like if you're on the field, you have to go 100%. That's why, I tell the moms when they want their sons to play football in our youth league. I'm like, I get that you're worried about your little baby, but I'm like, yeah, he's probably gonna get rocked. He's probably gonna get run over. But I'm like, but if he's meeting that aggression that's required to play the sport,
Mhm.
it won't be catastrophic. He won't be fearful. The kids that run backwards, or the kid that doesn't pay attention, or the kid that's afraid to get tackled and they're doing this, is
Well,
like you're only gonna get yourself hurt. So
part of this,
you gotta play hard. So
the
I
other
think
part of
Caleb,
this,
if he's out there, he's gonna play hard.
well, the other part of this is that USC's not out of the Pac-12 race yet. They lost to Utah. Their other loss was to Notre Dame. That wasn't a conference loss.
Is he gonna play if they at this point, if you win the Pac-12 championship and you're not Washington or Oregon, and you're not a one loss max. If you win the Pac-12 with 2 losses, you're going to the Rose Bowl,
Hmm.
and you're probably going to
Yeah, you just
play.
sit out. You
You're going
just
to
don't
play
play the
Penn
Rose Bowl.
State.
You just don't play the Rose Bowl.
But that's the thing. Like the whole allure of the Rose Bowl is that the Pac-12 or Pac-10, Pac-12 champion
No,
goes
that's
back.
old school. That was the 90s. We don't do that no more.
So then, if your goal is to win the Pac-12 but not play the Rose Bowl, I don't know how you have the goal of playing hard to win the Pac-12 if you don't care about playing in the Rose Bowl.
I
And,
don't know.
we've heard reports of like the influence that his father has as far as in these conversations, which is rightfully so.
Well, remember they played for the Pac-12 title last year, and
But they
he
had
got
one
hurt.
loss.
Yeah, but he got hurt, and then Utah
They
beat
would have
him.
been in the
Yeah, they
college
would have
football
made the
playoff.
playoff if they would
That's
have.
the
Yeah, if they'd
difference
have
from
won
when they're
that
already
game.
sitting on 2.
That is, but we'll see. I like to hope that competition takes over. That's my hope. But now let's take a journey around the NFL because there is some news going down in that league. We got Mr. Josh McDaniels back in the unemployment line, probably going to find his way back to Foxborough somehow, some way. But he gone.
Yeah.
Antonio Pierce as the interim coach. Champ Kelly is the GM.
Mark
You know,
Davis doing his best to honor Art Shell.
Jimmy Garoppolo on the bench for Aiden O'Connell. They got the Giants this weekend. Antonio Pierce against his former team. Like, you know what? Like, it's not
NFL
rigged.
scripted. It's
It's not.
scripted.
Yeah, it's not rigged, right? But I always tell Lindsay all the time. Sports is so poetic at times. Like, what are the chances that when you get on the Raiders staff, the coach is going to get fired and your first game coaching is going to be against your former team? Like, what are the chances of that?
So Jeff Saturday, his first game was against
Against the
coaching against
Raiders?
the Raiders.
Yeah, go figure, right? See what I'm saying? Like, you can't even make that up.
It's just I don't like I said, I've never been an advocate for people getting fired. Ooh. 1-0
Yep.
still in Arizona. I've never been an advocate of people getting fired, but like I said, I'll probably beat this word to death, and I'm going to keep doing it because my mom used to call me Mr. Logical. Josh McDaniels probably should have never gotten hired by the Raiders in the first place.
He shouldn't have got hired by anybody after what he did to the Colts.
Exactly. You and I get like we'll talk about, Byron Leftwich. He told him like, listen, I don't think the GM's doing a good job. So bring in another GM and I'll take the job. And they were like, nah, I was gonna go with Doug Peterson. And it worked out for them right now as it currently sits. But what I'm learning about the NFL and these conversations and what I've noticed is that there has to be a 3-tiered marriage, for lack of a better word. not really the owner. I think the owner gets their money from whatever. The GM, the head coach, and the quarterback, either they have to be all hired together or they have to, two of the three have to sign off on the one, because it has to work that way. Because a lot of times we talk about Justin Fields as being part of the trade block. They're like, he didn't get drafted by this staff and GM group.
Mm-hmm.
Like so because he's the odd man out and he's in that quarterback position, it makes it tough. If you get a new GM in, you keep the head coach, and then that GM drafts a quarterback. It's like, okay, well, the coach is the odd man out. And it becomes a part where it's like, okay, someone's going to have to go. One of those three people is adversely affecting the success of your team. I'm not saying the offensive line doesn't matter, offensive line coaches doesn't matter, but as far as like when I'm breaking down who can I get rid of to make the most immediate impact, whether to get rid of the piece that's not working or maybe bringing a piece that's to improve it, the head coach, the GM, or the quarterback. They fired the GM, they fired the head coach in Las Vegas, and they benched the starting quarterback. You're going to have to start all over. So I don't know how much you got to buy Jimmy Garoppolo out for, but you might as well just go ahead and call it and let this young rookie quarterback play it out, and then see if the new coach and GM that you pair together, do they believe in the quarterback, or do you take your, what we're gonna call it, your 4-13 record, your 5-12 record, and some other assets and go get Drake May? Because as of right now, firing a head coach and a GM and benching your starting quarterback, you're positioning yourself to be a top 5 draft pick kind of team anyway. So do you play this year out and see what you have? Do you move Devontae Adams? Because you're gonna move Devontae Adams in all season. You're gonna move Max Crosby. Because you're gonna have to either move one of them to move up in the draft, or you're gonna have to move one or two of them to get the picks to then move up. Something's gonna have to give. And granted, you probably can't do it. You couldn't do it now because of the money.
Which is wild in the first place, because like, people said they were calling for Devontae Adams and they just didn't even get an answer. So I just don't get the point. Like, just like when I look at Washington, for example, like trading Chase Young and Montez Sweat. So I understand it from the standpoint of, I guess, procuring extra picks.
Because they both were going to walk.
Well,
Chase Young was going to walk.
Well, I don't think Chase was going to walk. I think they weren't going to offer Chase anything.
Yeah, same thing.
So like, yeah, I mean, they got a 3rd round pick for him, for a team that probably didn't even need him. And, and this team just got Randy Gregory a couple of weeks ago, so
I
San
think
Francisco.
they're going to run the ball a lot in San Francisco with Brock Purdy.
They're definitely going to run the ball a lot.
Brock Purdy he should be in concussion protocol. I saw how he grabbed his head when he got sacked on that one play. I think it was a roughing the passer call, but he grabbed his head.
You see who first in the West, right?
What? The Clippers?
No, I'm talking about the NFC West.
Seattle?
Yeah. What I'm saying? Right here, this guy right here. So Leonard Williams pick up, and they picked up Frank Clark a couple of days ago. So I think Seattle's trying to go all in for lack of, obviously they don't have the quarterback still, but for the most part, I think they're just trying to go all
the quarterback over $100 million. I think they got the guy.
Maybe. Maybe they think they got Russell Wilson Jr., but the younger Russell Wilson that don't make mistake Russell Wilson,
Or do you have a more athletic Trent Dilfer?
Oh no.
Is that, if you bolster your defense enough, can you get the pass rush and you have a more athletic?
Well, it's just weird because I feel like they have the receivers. I like the running backs. But Geno's my
It might
question
it
mark.
might it might just be the scheme. It might just
It could
be
be.
that their
But
offensive scheme is so vanilla. That's why that whole let Russ cook situation
well, it
popped up
reminds
because
me of Nick Wright when we were talking about, remember he said, would I be surprised if the 49ers lose a playoff game and
Brock
Brock
Purdy's
Purdy was the
the
reason? Like,
reason.
that's how I feel about Geno. Like, if Seattle loses in a playoff situation, am I really going to be shocked that the offense put up 10 points?
Yeah, but I think that might be more on Pete Carroll and the
Mhm.
lack of his offensive I'm trying to think
Creativity.
creativity, just imagination. What Kyle Shanahan has been doing every year after year as he's gotten more athletes and he's putting them in these different positions. He does, I think Mike McDaniels, because they're from the same coaching tree,
Mhm.
McVay seem to run a lot of single back, a lot of play action, a lot of tight end stuff. So I think they all kind of got their influence from the same place. I think McDaniels just kind of took a lot more of what Shanahan did. So Shanahan has a lot of good route runners than he has running backs, wide receiver combos. McCaffrey is a running back that can do wide receiver stuff. Debo is a wide receiver that can do running back stuff. Then he tried to get the quarterback with Trey Lance that can do running back, quarterback stuff. Like he's trying to create these hybrid guys where you got
You try
Kittle,
to play positionless football.
George Kittle. I messed it up a few weeks ago. My bad, Kittle, 85. Where he can block on the end next to
Oh,
Trent
side
Williams,
note, side note,
or he can play like a wide receiver. What's up?
side note, we don't got to worry about the 325 points no more because apparently Brian Ferentz is out of there.
Yeah, I mean, if
So
if you got that kind of stipulation going to the season, they don't want you. Like
yeah, so
it's
but
like when you text if you're texting a girl and you're asking what her plans for the weekend are, and she's telling you how busy she was at work all week. She don't want to see you that weekend. Hey,
yeah,
what you doing this weekend? I've
but
been
now we're
really
going to
busy
see
at
what
work. I'm
Daddy
like,
going
it's
to do. Is
Wednesday.
Daddy going to be out of there too? But back to the
Might as
NFL.
well.
Here's a
Yeah,
question for you: are we going to see Kyler Murray at some point?
I doubt it.
Because
I seriously doubt it. Because
Josh Dobbs is in Minnesota now, and the only other quarterback on the roster at this point, before we recorded, I looked it up like 2 hours ago. The only other quarterback on the roster is the rookie 5th round draft pick Clayton Tune. So it's like, okay, like play the rookie, lose a bunch of games, all that stuff. But I'm like, you could have just did that in the first place.
yeah, that's a peculiar move. I remember seeing, but I'm not sure exactly what they got for Josh Dobbs.
I'll tell you right now. I will tell you right now. They got so they sent Dobbs and a 7th round pick and got back a 6th round pick.
What? What? They traded their starting quarterback and a pick
Yes.
and got a 6 round pick back.
Yes.
How many picks does Arizona made a trade with Houston? Correct.
Correct.
So they have Houston's first round pick for 2024. So this next upcoming draft and the
Yeah.
2025 draft
So you had me doubting myself. I had to check myself. That is correct. Dobbs and a 7th round pick in next year's draft
to Minnesota.
or a 6th round pick in next year's draft.
Okay.
So they moved up around and got rid of a quarterback.
And then what do they have? So as of right now, Carolina has the number 1 pick. Arizona has 2. Houston's probably 3.
Chicago, maybe?
Chicago's mixing there,
Because I think
but
Chicago's only win is the
Chicago
Washington
has
win.
Carolina's pick.
Hmm.
That's what it is. So Chicago
So
probably
Chicago's
has
got the 2 picks
1.
because everybody was saying that they could get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison
So they
Jr.
got 1
Harvin
and
Marison. We don't say that name around here.
so they got 1 and potentially 3 or 4. So they have 2 of the top 4 picks. Arizona has Houston's picks as right now. I think that's looking like number 2.
We'll go into the top of the ninth.
Vegas is trying to get in there to get around 5. So if you can't get Caleb Williams, or you go on Drake May,
I would think
and it's like,
so.
how do you tell? Like, how do you tell if I'm a new coach? I got this football team. I got a bunch of guys that, what's the percentage? Like 35% of NFL rosters turnover every year. How do you tell a group of guys that I need you to play hard while management is publicly throwing in a towel on this season?
You just tell them like, hey, the best thing
I
I
need
can
you
tell
to
you
run
is
hard on special teams. I
you
need
tell
you
them.
to show up for practice. I need you
No,
to
no, this is what you
study.
tell them. This is what you tell them. Hey, son, how bad you want to be in the NFL? And they say whatever they say, and then you say, well, it's time for you to start auditioning. That's the conversation. It's time for you to get on film and show some
So
team
all
out
those
there.
good teams that whooped our ass this year, they're gonna need new players too.
Yep.
So anytime you play the Chiefs, make sure you try to pick Patrick Mahomes off, or you get a good hit on Pacheco, or you beat their safety on a deep route. So next year when they need a player, they're like, hey, remember that game that guy had
Yeah, this
120
this
yards
is
receiving on
this
us?
is more incentive for like somebody like
Is he
say
available?
this is more incentive for somebody like say Josh Jacobs, to go out there and run for 800 yards and for the rest of the season or whatever. You know what I mean? Like this is that chance now because now you're in that Chase Young window. If you're somebody like him, where we knew he wasn't coming back to Washington next
I'm
year.
so sick of San Francisco. I just realized, like, I mean, I know we said it earlier, but then when you said Chase Young, and I was like, so you mean to tell me you have Eric Armstead, Drew Greenlaw,
Bosa,
Bosa,
Chase Young,
Chase Young,
Randy
Fred,
Gregory.
Fred Warner, Randy Gregory,
You still got
Mafunga, Ward,
yep,
the scheme?
yep,
You still just run those dudes out there and it's like, hey, let's play a fair game of football against the
yep.
Cardinals that just gave away their starting quarterback for peanuts and a ball of Gatorade.
Yeah, that's why I told somebody. I told one of my 49er fans today. He said, "What are your thoughts on the trade? Are you upset?" And I said, "I'm just gonna pray for Trevor Lawrence because that's who San Francisco got when they come off the bye.
If they lose that game,
Oh, it's gonna be all hell gonna break loose then. But
I
but
thought they were going to start Sam Donald against Cincinnati. Is Joe Burrow back? Is that calf good?
yeah,
Are they dangerous at 4-3?
he completed 82% of his passes against the 49ers this past weekend.
So we're not doing predictions now, but we got Buffalo, Cincinnati. Who needs it
Son,
more?
Buffalo needs it more. I think
Does that
Buffalo
put them
need
under 500?
no. I think Buffalo needs it from a mental standpoint. Because like we talked about, like they think that they're on that level with Kansas City and Cincinnati. Like we're right there with them.
Mentally,
But
or
you
you
got to
think
beat them. But you got
it's
to
going
beat.
to implode? You think they're going to implode if
I think it's a possibility. I think it's about. And plus, remember, that's the same field that the DeMar Hamlin thing happened last year. So it's going to be
that's gonna be
emotional
tough?
too. Yeah. So like, I think Buffalo needs this. Like Cincinnati, they do this every year. Like we talked about it. Like last year,
Burrow
Joe
played the
Burrow
first 4
threw
games like
for
he was suspended.
yeah, he threw 4 picks against the Steelers opening week last year. They started 0-2 and boom, boom, boom. This year, like they started 0-2. Now they're 3-1 in their last 4 games. So this is what Cincinnati does. So if they lose, Cincinnati's like, yo, we just got to take care of our division. If Buffalo loses, they got to keep pace with Miami. And oh, by the way, the Jets got a tiebreaker over you. And the Jets are 4-3 now. They're probably going to make the playoffs, aren't they?
I mean, the fact that like I said, over half the league makes the playoffs. Well,
No,
close to half. Close to
but
half.
think about it. If
48%.
Miami goes into Kansas City this weekend and wins.
Oh, Germany.
Oh, I'm sorry. If they go into Germany and beat Kansas City this weekend.
Oh no, sorry. Oh,
I know.
are you watching the baseball
Yeah,
game?
I'm watching it.
Oh
I got a
man.
pop quiz for you to see if you were watching the baseball game in a little bit. But yeah, so yeah, I was paying attention. I'm multitasking over here.
My bad. I
But
looked over it when the ball went under his glove. So Got a little ground ball to center field. Center fielder looked up, ready to make a throw. Didn't get his glove all the way down. Ball goes underneath his glove.
Yep,
Rolls
3-0.
to the wall. Oh, goes
You
right
know,
past
but
his glove. Gives up
but
2 runs.
but if Miami knocks off Kansas City, and then you lose to Cincinnati, and when we look at the standings on Monday morning, I'm about to pull it up right now, actually, because I forgot the records. I know the Jets are 4-3.
Miami would leave that game.
Yeah, so Miami's 6-2 right
7-2.
now. Miami's 6-2. Buffalo's 5-3, and the Jets are 4-3. So this is the thing. So Miami wins that game against Kansas City. They're 7-2. If the Jets beat the Chargers, which I'm not saying they should, but you just never know what Staley going to do. But if the Jets knock off the Chargers and they have the tiebreaker over you and you're tied with them in the loss column right now, and you go lose that game next week, you're basically 2 games behind the Jets.
2 games behind the Jets. AFC West is only gonna get you 1 team in.
Uh-huh.
So that's a bonus. So somebody's getting 3 teams in.
It's either going to be the East or the North.
Because the North is gonna eat them. Well,
because you got Baltimore and Cincinnati, and then maybe Cleveland, or
Cleveland. I guess
I don't know.
Deshaun Watson's out indefinitely.
Yeah. So they're done.
So his contract's guaranteed. So they're
Pittsburgh.
done.
We got Pittsburgh tomorrow night. Against these guys, and then
AFC South, you're gonna get 1.
you're gonna get 1, which is probably Jacksonville right now because
Jacksonville
they're 6-2 or
maybe can
5-2.
sneak Indy in, but Indy's not gonna have a vibe. Like they're not gonna have the starting quarterback they need, so they won't get any wins. Houston,
They just lost to
Tennessee,
Carolina.
Maybe Levis is the answer, but
we'll find out tomorrow night.
a lot of his throws were off his back foot, and he just was using arm. It just was a lot of
this is the thing.
People are excited about it because I watched those touchdown throws. A lot of it was like the last touchdown he threw off his back foot. Like, 50-yard flick of the wrist. Yeah, it was off his back foot, and it was no other defender over there.
Well, this is the
Atlanta
thing.
plays good defense, but
they play good defense, but they don't. They play.
They don't get to the quarterback.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. Atlanta plays good defense, but they don't get pressure. He's got to deal with J.J. Watt. And oh, by the way, I blinked and saw that Cam Hayward's coming back tomorrow. So, and the Steelers already lead the league in turnovers, for the most, or I think they're top 2. But the point being, like,
tomorrow could be his rookie game.
He's going to get his wake-up call. He's going to get his wake-up call.
So the AFC East could get 3 teams in theoretically because I think the Buffalo is gonna, if they lose, they're gonna have to claw their way out. The Jets play such a simple game with Zach Wilson, and they play solid defense, and I think they believe.
But you know what the funny thing is? So the Ravens are 6-2. Everybody else in that division is 4-3. And shit, Texas is about to explode.
Yeah,
we got a 2-run homer.
It's
Marcus
bad.
Simeon.
That's your MVP, right?
Gotta be. But yeah, so all the teams are 4-3. So that's the problem, is that Pittsburgh can beat anybody, but they could lose to anybody too, because they get the turnovers, but otherwise they're near the bottom of the league in defense.
If you came to a game under some new NFL rules and it started in the third quarter and the other team playing against Pittsburgh had 20 points and you gave Pittsburgh the ball for the rest of the half,
they might not score.
They might not score 21.
And do we know if Kenny Pickett's playing tomorrow? Do we know if Kenny Pickett's playing tomorrow?
After the hit, which should have been a personal foul, it should have been a roughing and passer because he did throw the body weight on him. We don't know if did he not even throw it?
Clippers are roughing up the Lakers again.
Yeah, so
39-28 with 10-14 left in the second quarter.
39-28. They'll blow it.
But yeah,
NFL's interesting. I dig it. I like I like what I'm seeing. I'm still not a big fan of the MVP chatter,
The quarterback award,
the quarterback award, because like guys like AJ Brown,
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill are like ninth. Chris McCaffrey's like ninth, 10th in the odds. I think Brock Purdy still might be ahead of him. Trevor Lawrence is ahead of a couple of these guys. Trevor Lawrence doesn't have 10 touchdowns yet. I think Lamar's ahead of a couple of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're really gonna have to evaluate. Like,
Not my guy, Golf, huh?
I think Jared Goff might, but I get it because he's having a year where you would want to consider him for MVP because the award is most valuable player, not like the player with the best stats. I know you need
Right,
stats to
right,
support it.
right.
His value to the Detroit Lions, he allows Dan Campbell to be gritty with everything else because Jared's so smooth. Like Kenny Pickett fits the type of personality that Dan Campbell has for his team.
Mm-hmm.
Tough, just in there, just grinding away,
Gunslinger, yeah.
gunslinger, grinder, everything else, but it doesn't leave the points. Jared Goff gives you the ability to be a power run team, hit the tight end, but he also has an element of hitting Amon-Ra St. Brown on a crossing route from one hash to the other accurately. He has that I can hit the tight end in the seam versus like just checking it down to the flat. Like,
Yeah.
some of these
Did you
young
see they made
quarterbacks.
a trade too?
They got they went and got Peoples Jones from
Yeah,
Cleveland.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, yeah.
Because young boy Jameson,
He's not consistent right now.
he's not consistent. He's young, but you make the move. But that's what Dan Campbell, that's what Jared Goff allows you to do is like, hey, we could bolster the defense. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you another weapon. That way we can fly around defensively. So that's the difference. See, Kenny Pickett, Mike Tomlin needs let me think of the available quarterbacks. I would say Jimmy Garoppolo, but it seems like Jimmy just doesn't really function.
Jimmy throws some balls into danger, man.
Like for no reason.
Even if Mike Tomlin has Zach Wilson.
Nah, I think he'd be in the same position.
Mm.
Trying to think, like, without trying to be like, oh, if he had Lamar, like, I'm trying to just think
right. What if he had Josh Dobbs?
If he had Taylor Heineke,
okay,
Taylor Heineke in Pittsburgh would allow Pittsburgh's defense to fly around because they know, like, listen,
you
I
mean starting quarterback Taylor Heineke?
Absolutely. And I'm not a big fan of doing it simply because Atlanta's not going to lose enough games to be in a position to get a new one of these top 3, not even 3, because I think there's 2 top quarterbacks in the draft next year. As far as what we see right now, Caleb Williams, Drake May, those are projected to. Anybody that's third, I don't think they're first round or top 10 and top 15 versus all the other needs you can fill with college football. I think if you're in a position where you need a quarterback and get Drake May, Caleb Williams, you do it. I think, like I said, Chicago is going to be in that position. Now, if Atlanta is willing to be aggressive and say, hey, Chicago, give me Justin Fields. We'll give you our second round pick, which would be probably a mid second round pick. So we'll keep because Atlanta's probably going to finish the season, be realistic, 8-9, 7-10, somewhere like the last couple of years have been 7-10 for the last 2 years.
But not the second round pick and Drake London, right?
No. You're not going to do that. But like last week, they said that Carolina or Chicago wouldn't budge on the deal unless Carolina gave up DJ Moore. So that's different than them saying, hey, we'll also throw in DJ Moore. And they were like, nah. But it was like, hey, they wouldn't give up. They wouldn't give up the number 1 pick without DJ Moore. So if Atlanta can make that kind of move, I'm with it. But if you're because you can't keep Heineke because I don't know if he's your long term answer.
I mean, you still need a backup.
But you can't keep. I don't know if you've had Ritter long enough to really get rid of him. So that's the thing. So if you're in that meeting and you're the same GM that drafted him, you're the same coaching staff that groomed him, it's like you're not going to give up on him because you know him personally. You drafted him, you brought him here, you brought his family there, so you're not going to give up on him. So going to Heineke just to be mediocre is like, well, you better off just leaving Ritter in there. That's the thing is like you're damned if you damned if you don't. I would have left Ritter in there and then made like tangible philosophy adjustments to how I play. Like, listen,
Yeah, I
just
feel like
throw the ball down here. I don't give a damn what happens. I need you to throw that seam route. I need you to throw it to Pitts when he's open.
I
Don't
feel
think
like that's a
about it.
week 12
Just
move.
do it.
That's like a week
Yeah.
12 move. It still looks the same. That's a week 12 move. Like it's still early in the season. Because I mean, for all intents and purposes, we both picked Atlanta to win the division. And
They're gonna
they
win at
still can.
89.
They
They can win
still
at
can.
89. Just
You know
like
what I mean?
Tampa Bay won it last year, 8-9.
So that's where, like, for me, it's like, why now? Though I admit, the offense did look quicker. It did look something when Heineke was in there the other day. It did look different. You know what I mean? But I don't know how much of that was Heineke or if it was just
Tennessee wasn't planning on him playing, and they
or
were just scouting Ritter.
that, and I mean, I can't really tell like if they were calling like the same type of plays that they call when
I was
Ritter's in
trying to
there.
figure that out too because
You know,
Ritter got benched, but he went 8 for 12 for 79 yards in the first half.
but it looked
So
like when Heineke was in there, it looked like for real, like this is probably how they want the offense to look. That was my takeaway. It was like, look at look how quick the ball is coming out. Look at you know what I mean. It just looked like it flowed.
yeah, and if I was in a position to ask Arthur Smith like what was the real difference in him to give me a real answer, he could be like, yo, I pulled him because this is the third week in a row where I've called X over Y slant Z post and he threw the check down before he even looked to see if the post was open. And it was like, this is the third week in a row. I've called that play and it's been open and he threw the check down anyway. And it's like, what are you seeing? Because I've seen this 3 weeks in a row. I'm thinking maybe it had to be something like that because the offense isn't moving is what it is. But
especially against a bad pass defense like Tennessee's, who's in the bottom 10 of the league. Like let that thing go.
yeah, like the same thing I said
Like
about the Washington game. When I talked about it before the Washington game, like sometimes I feel like I should be coaching myself. Chicago came out first drive. It might have been the first, maybe second play, and they got what looked like either a one-on-one matchup or a single high safety matchup, and it was like, we're about to get DJ Moore one-on-one on the outside. You're looking at baseball, don't react. We're about
No,
to
I'm
get
looking
DJ
at
Moore.
basketball.
Oh, we're about to get DJ Moore one-on-one on the outside. Oh, we're throwing this.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin. Hey, check it. We're throwing this to DJ.
Well,
and we have a World Series champion, ladies
there
and
you
gentlemen.
go. The Texas Rangers, for the first time in franchise history, got them looking. Got them look. You ended the World Series looking.
It was close. The ball in the little box was red. So
all right. So now that we're here, I can ask you my pop quiz question. There was a thing that they put up on the screen because I know I can multitask. I don't know if you were checking it out, but okay. Now that the Rangers have won the World Series, who are the other 5 teams that have not won the World Series?
Ooh. Think about this for a minute. I don't want to too long with it. Let's go.
We'll get to the next topic. I'll set it up, but go ahead.
Because the Expos are now the Nationals. Tampa Bay Rays.
Correct.
Padres.
Correct.
Ooh, 2 for 2. Mariners.
Correct.
Oh man, I really feel myself. Orioles got one. Cincinnati's got one. Cleveland Guardians.
No, they have one.
Ah,
Exactly one.
got to be somebody in the Midwest. Mets got one. White Sox, Cubs got one. At least Boston's got one. Orioles got one. I'm out. I'll take those three. That's all I got.
The Rockies and the Brewers.
That's why I said Midwest. I was like Midwest.
Yeah, so those are the 5 teams that haven't won the World Series. Like I wish we could play which one is going to win one first, but baseball is like too crazy to be talking like that. But here we go. The jig is up in Ann Arbor.
Man, that dude ain't going nowhere.
Michigan been out here on their New England Patriot tip, but they took it to the next level because, like with the Patriots, we were told that they were watching the walkthrough. And I know there was another team, I want to say it was the Chargers or the Vikings, that got in trouble for doing it too, but it wasn't as publicized because they weren't the Patriots.
The Patriots were filming the walkthrough.
Right.
And rumor has it that the St. Louis Rams felt as if in that Super Bowl that someone, granted this comes out after the fact, that their walkthrough was either filmed or watched because the Patriots did things in that Super Bowl that you wouldn't. They made adjustments in on the fly that you was just like, how do you know to do that? And I remember, like, I was like on the Josh McDaniels, because it kind of ties back into it. I was watching the pivot. I forgot who the linebacker was, but he was a linebacker in Denver. I forgot. It might have been Woodyard. I could be wrong, but he was on the pivot, and he was talking about how in practice, Josh McDaniels, the coaching staff, was telling them, like, listen, when you see this formation, just drop back 15 yards and turn around. The ball will be somewhere here. Like, this is where the route's going. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, man, this guy's a good coach, man. I thought we were doing good. Like, oh, man, this guy's making adjustments. He knows what is going on, yada, 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 yada. He's like, come to find out, man, we was time. So when he went 6-0, and then he got caught, and then he had to stop doing it. He was like, so they was 6-0, because he was like, man, how do they know that he's like, man, if you drop back here, if you just run back to this spot 20 yards and turn around, you'll get an interception. He's like, oh man, these coaches are great. This is great coaching staff. It's a Patriot way. And come to find out they were cheating. So the rumor is, or the feeling post Super Bowl, was that event, that Super Bowl was one of the events that was compromised, right? Because it was the greatest show on turf. But to argue the counterpoint that if I'm a Bill Belichick guy, it's like, well, he did the same thing to the Rams a few years ago when he held them to 3 points, and they were the new Rams. They were the greatest show on turf, and it's like, so he definitely didn't pull the same card twice and cheat the same exact way.
Well, see, and that's my problem with this situation, because even if Jim Harbaugh was the mastermind behind this, there's no way it would have got done like it has been done. Like, this dude was out here allegedly, Connor Stallions, he was out here buying tickets to all these games in his own name and like his family members' names and all this kind of stuff like that. Like, I doubt Jim Harbaugh would be like, yo, make yourself traceable, or like buy these tickets and we're just going to let it hang out. Like, nobody will ever know. Like, I feel like if you're going to plot to do these things, it would be a little more, it would have been harder to find out.
A little bit more clandestine, a little bit more Jason Bourne.
Yeah, like, because like there's a video
of him. So. Well, people are not bright. People, this is the thing. You and I grew up in the era, and people our age, we grew up in an era where there weren't cameras around, and we still were doing sneaky stuff. Listen, you just snuck into a girl's house and snuck out before at some
Right.
point in your life prior to 16 or 17. So
Right.
prior to
Not
1994,
that he was an
95,
adult
96,
too.
97, yeah. So you know how to get out, where to park your car, what like. So now, if I had to do some slick stuff, I can revert back to the stuff I did back then. Well, now you can't. Like you can't even lie. You can't lie because your phone says you were there. There's apps that you use on a regular basis that tell your location. I turn my location off on my phone because I remember I had Snapchat some years back. I remember I opened it up. It had locations for like all the people who were my friends. I was thinking to myself, why would you want someone to know exactly where you were for no reason?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to know, like, you went trick or treating last night. I don't need to block you to know that. Like, why are you sharing that information with me? So
Right.
I think people are so used to just everything being readily available and there's cameras everywhere. So this guy going in, it might have been a situation where he just wanted to put himself in a position where he could create an edge for himself in the hiring process and the hierarchy of assistant coaches, the hierarchy of like people who get to stay around, because the college coach we talked about earlier, he is king. If you can impress Dabo Sweeney, you're there. Hell, they got goddamn pullback coaches, like the coaches that pull you back off the sideline. That dude had the head coach has to trust you enough that he allows you to touch him unexpectedly. And like people, like it was a dude. I seen him tucking his khakis up. He was like ready, like he's ready to spot somebody for a squat to pull like Nick Saban back to the sideline. So to get to that level, and you're in there, you're in the coaches fraternity. You gave them all this information. I don't know if Mangini and Bill Belichick are having dinner anytime soon, but I bet you
Yeah,
Josh
I doubt it.
McDaniels, Joe Judge, Matt
Romeo
Patricia,
Cornell.
Romeo Cornell, Bill O'Brien, they all went right back to New England and got jobs after they were completely unsuccessful. He would not have hired those guys if he didn't know those guys based off their performances as head coaches. They wouldn't have been able to walk into his office if they weren't Bill Belichick disciples on their way out to get a job and then to come back like based off their performance. But they have a bit of cachet. It might be a situation with that, but Harbaugh's an old school guy. You got to be smarter than that. Like, listen, dog, you don't need tickets. You can just watch the games.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but there's allegedly, video of him on the Central Michigan sideline when they were playing against Michigan State in the opening game this season. So not even like he was in the crowd, but he was actually on the sideline,
But
and
what
not
good is
o-
he doing on the sideline if he doesn't have
I don't know, but
headphones?
but but
He
but
doesn't
but
have a
but
playbook.
but but this is where you get into it though. So like the people that were figuring this out, they were saying how uh the rest of the coaches had their badge like somewhere else and his was like up here and his was down like on his pants pocket or something. It was just like odd little things like that are like, is he a part of this? Like even if nobody knew who he was, it was just like everybody else is a certain way and you're not.
One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah. So the head coach, Jim McElwain, was asked about it, and he was like, "I don't know nothing about that." Now he better hope and pray to God that that guy really wasn't on his sideline and he didn't know about it. You
You
know
gotta
what I
keep in
mean?
mind, man, some of this AI photoshopping stuff
Yeah,
that people
exactly.
are
That's
doing
why I said
now is
allegedly. That's why I said
yeah,
allegedly.
it's
You know,
chaos.
but yeah, then he had tickets to allegedly he had tickets to Ohio State and Penn State, like one seat on like each side of the stadium or something.
So
Like
is he buying these tickets
it
with his
sounds
own credit card?
that's what it sounds like. But the problem is that from what I was reading, he makes about $55,000 a year. So he ain't buying those type of tickets on his own unless he's a rich kid that, you know what I mean, got some kind of trust or something like that that we don't know about. But so that's where you would think that the university or Harbaugh or somebody else could be involved, but at this point, I have no reason to think that Jim Harbaugh is involved. I know TCU's coach Sonny Dykes came out and said that when they played Michigan in the playoff game last year, they had dummy signals because it was kind of known that Michigan does this.
Yeah,
And
but realistically,
everybody does it.
like I talk about my kids' youth football league. We they have a it blew my mind. It was like coaches used to come to our games, and we had a couple of like I won't say zealous overzealous parents. Excuse me. A couple of parents. Hell, one time I even went because we had a kid that used to be on our team. He's like a family friend, and they were playing our rival. So I went to the game, and I was like, you know what? Let me take a couple of pictures of their formations and be like, yo, this is what they do out of this formation. I told the coach because they were like the team above my son's level. So it's like you still got to stop it.
Yeah.
I know that you're gonna run because, like I said, we had a weight limit. It was like 140. It was 135 pounds. That's what you'd be at the weigh-in. Well, you get a kid that's 155 pounds at the beginning of August. He works out in this New Jersey summer humidity, and in September he gets on a scale and he's 134.9. They're like, all right, you're good to go. Now he can just eat and bloom back up to 155. You don't get reweighed. So yeah, he could be a running back, and you think he's 135 because that's the range, but now he's probably like blown back up to 155. So I can tell you, hey, they're gonna run this sweep to the right. Your outside linebackers, and cornerbacks and safeties still have to be willing to come downhill and make a tackle on this guy, even if you know the play is coming.
Yep.
And
And
you
they still
still
got to
got to
have the
get
discipline to stay in their spots.
stay in their spot, and you still got to beat the in the Michigan's
Well, it's just
case.
like when you were
You
talking
still
about the
got to beat
option
the
earlier.
guard that's pulling. You still got to beat the people because everybody like I could look at film and know your tendencies.
Well, yeah, it's like you were like when you were talking about the option earlier. Like, I know that you run the option. Why Air Force still running for 340 yards a game?
Yeah,
You know
just
what I mean?
running
Like,
running through people.
you know what I
Like
mean? Their
my
quarterback threw 7 passes last week and they won by 17 points.
my son's 14. He plays in a rec basketball league, and the coach was calling out a play. I'm sitting on the bench, and he called out a play. I think it was called Carolina, and I heard my son telling his teammates, "Hey, they're running this. They're gonna scream me. They're gonna scream me here. You got to get here because they're gonna get here." So it's like even in the course of the game, they didn't study film on this other rec basketball team. He just recognized that the play call, this happens. You got to get here, and it's like he's 14. He doesn't have advanced film study. He just you know what you're doing. So I don't know why Jim Harbaugh, with all the 5 stars coming off a college football playoff
2
appearance
years in a row.
2 years in a row, would need to steal signs to beat or Iowa or Wisconsin. Like you know what Wisconsin's gonna do? They're gonna run
Yeah.
behind their 1,500, 1,800 pounds of offensive linemen. They're gonna throw it to the tight end, and then they might take a couple of deep shots with 1 or 2 wide receivers.
Well, you know what I think? I think there's a reason why college football doesn't have the microphones in their helmets like the NFL does, and I think that that reason is because everybody does what Jim Harbaugh is being accused of. I think that they, this Connor Stallions guy, whether he did it on his own or he was empowered, they took it to another level, But I'm sure everybody tries to get any advantage and intel that they can on their opponent, you know.
Yeah, Matt Rule
And
said it. He's like high school to have microphones in the helmets. We got these big dumb signs on the sideline. Like he's like everyone does it. Everyone steals signs. It's like that's
yeah,
like
you
getting a
have to. Without that communication, you have to,
if
and
if I know this means all linebackers go and I see them do it, I'm like, hey, they're doing that thing when they're flashing 4 times.
yeah,
It's like they're gonna blitz the linebackers.
yeah, so like when I look at this, what I wanted to ask you about it was I was talking to some people, some Michigan men, if you will, and they were saying how basically like, yeah, he's out of here, he's going to the NFL, like whatever, blah blah blah. So here's my question: do you think, because it is on the table, if he were to be found guilty or whatever, and get some kind of punishment from the NCAA and then leave for the NFL, I guess, would be allowed to punish him as well. What do you
Jim
think about
Tressel
that?
style, like what they
Yeah, yeah.
did
What do
with
you think about that?
Tyrell Pryor. I think that's stupid. I think it's dumb. I think it's like if I'm late for work at my last job and I quit and you hire me on, you can't dock my pay. Yeah, it's the same field, but it has nothing to do with you. Like you hired me. It's all about they want they want to you are not an admirable organization all the time. No organization is. So stop acting as if you are.
Hmm.
You don't have to sell me on your morality. You don't have to sell me on your integrity. You don't have to. When it comes to money, I know anyone dealing with money, you're gonna make concessions to your integrity. It is
Hmm.
what it is. You don't have to oversell me on it because you don't give a damn if Jim Harbaugh gets hired by the Las Vegas Raiders. The NCAA doesn't give a damn if he gets punished when he's in the NFL. You don't give a shit. You don't care. It has nothing to do with you. It doesn't affect Michigan football. Only thing it does affect them is like they got to get another coach. But him getting doc pay for 2 games in the NFL, I think is hired by the Las Vegas Raiders. Does what? Does that show that you have integrity over your sport that just started paying players 2 years ago
Hmm.
when players were getting paid under the table 4 years? And we
Hmm.
all knew it. Hell, half of them were on the cover of magazines and commercials on yachts at Drake concerts. I mean, like, let's keep it real. Anybody sitting courtside at any pub, any game, any event, or sitting ringside, courtside, front row at a concert, they didn't get that because they just looked good.
Hmm.
That's not how they got. Somebody paid for it. And if that's illegal, whatever the case may be, boosters should not know the players personally. You know what the boosters are there for. They're there to boost the economy of the team. They should not have any
Hmm.
direct contact with the players, but yet it was perfectly fine. They wrote the rules to where it was built that way. Don't try to sell me on integrity. You don't have it.
It's
Like
not a
it's
thing.
fine. It's not a thing. It is not a thing. So I'm good with you not trying to lie to me. They don't piss in my pocket and tell me it's raining.
Yeah. So, yo, we
So if
got
you're gonna fire Harbaugh for it because it was blatant, or you warned the team, or whatever the case may be, or this is a second infraction within one school year, get rid of him. But he has talent in that brain, and he took the San Francisco 49ers that had Mike Singletary making quotes at the podium about not being able to
can't
win.
win with him. Can't play
Can't
with
coach
him.
him. Can't play with him. Can't win with him. He took that same team to the Super Bowl, and he made Alex Smith literally damn near MVP candidate, and he had Colin Kaepernick probably a pass interference call away from being Super Bowl MVP.
It went all
He,
Michael Vick up in Lambeau.
I
You know,
mean, literally, it's it's no one. I don't say no one cares, but don't act like you
we
care.
don't care. We don't care.
We don't.
So, you know, now we get to the association, and right now
Oh
we got
yeah.
61-48 Clippers at halftime over the Lakers. Kawhi Leonard with 22 first half points. Russell Westbrook with 13 points, 11 of those coming in the second quarter. For the Lakers, Anthony Davis, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 of 6 shooting, and
Three
LeBron
rebounds
James
in 24 minutes.
in 20 minutes. And then LeBron James, 17 points, 3 boards, and an assist on 6 of 9 shooting.
So how many points?
17.
So Anthony Davis played 20 minutes,
Yes.
and he's got
8
three
points and three
rebounds.
rebounds. Yes.
Listen,
Can't win
I'm
with
all
him. Can't play with him.
I'm all record. I'm not listen. I'm not anti Anthony Davis, but I did not think you could rely on him. I
Mhm.
won't say rely. There was I didn't see any evidence to say he was going to rise above the the 2020 championship player that he was. I
Mhm.
think that was the best he probably was going to be.
I mean, he's
With
had a lot of injuries, like you have to think that
not
he
even the
was
injuries, like when he's just when he's healthy, like when he's out there healthy, Anthony Davis doesn't do anything offensively or defensively that makes you game plan
But when
for
he's
him.
healthy, is he healthy?
I don't know. Like, for instance, if Luca has the ball in his hand and he dribbles from one side of the wing or one side of the elbow to the other side, you got a plan for whoever's guarding him to go from right to left, left to right.
Hmm.
If Giannis is coming to the paint, you have a whole defensive strategy for him. I think LeBron now he might have a little bit. They might have to send less help because he doesn't exert himself all the way to the cup like he used to. Because I mean, let's keep it a bean. He's almost 40.
Right.
But like that Miami Heat LeBron, like you tried to do stuff, you just couldn't do anything with it. Steph, you run guys at him, or you get your most athletic guy that can just run with them, or you switch everything. So like he's essentially running against fresh guys as he's moving around. Anthony Davis, you can play him straight up, whatever guy's guarding him. You don't send any help. You don't have to do anything. You just play him straight up. And that's the thing. People were treating him like he was one of these ultra impactful guys, and he wasn't. He just was a really good guy. He is Miles Turner with opportunity.
Hmm. I haven't heard that one before. Okay. I like it.
Because
I
like
like it.
because people wanted to throw him into the same realm of the Embiid. Embiid, you have to game plan for Embiid because Embiid is going to show up and he's going to make sure you adjust to how great he
See,
is playing that day.
you did it again. I was just about to say, how the hell did Philly get that trade without Terrence Mann being included? And why did we wait till now to make this trade?
Because sometimes, man, the divorce is bitter. It's bitter, and you may say, you know what, I want the summer house here and I want the lake house. You can get the beach house. And you're like, you know what? Just fine, leave. Just give me the lake house. You get whatever you want. Just take that and go. And I think they were going to get to that point with James Harden because it was like, there's no reason for him. There's no reason for him to
Mhm.
come back to Philly. He already said he wasn't going to do it. No one else was going to give you anything. And the Clippers probably have the most eccentric, expectation based money owner. I think he might be the richest owner in the NBA.
Mhm.
Maybe someone has more, but I think his net worth was somewhere in the 40, 50 billion when he bought the team. So he's probably in the position to risk more, even though it's not that much in the
Right,
grand
in the
scheme of
grand
things.
scheme of
But
it, yeah.
for a billionaire to risk 35 million on a player, it's probably not that much considering that the licensing deal that he's going to get for his new stadium
Mhm.
is going to be fucking 10 times that per year for the next X amount of years, whatever the case may be. You know what? However the math works
Hey,
out.
one thing we know about James Harden, though, he is a loyal dude, bro. He is loyal. Wherever he go,
To himself,
he gonna
he
make
take a little bit.
sure. No, wherever he go, he gonna try his damnedest to get PJ Tucker with him. He gonna
I think,
try.
yeah. I mean, Philly definitely. It might be one of those things you win for losing. You lose James Harden, who is when he's on, he's on. Can you get Houston James Harden now? I don't know how many years have passed. Can you get the Brooklyn James Harden when they had KD, Kyrie, and him? If you can get 23 and 11, or
But that's the
we'll be
crazy
honest.
thing. You don't even need that because Paul
If you
George
can
is
get
playing lights out right now. Like Kawhi just put up 22 in the first half. So, like,
Do you bring Russ off the bench? Do you bring James off
do
the
you bring
bench?
Harden off the bench? That's what I was
That's
going
what
to
I'm saying.
say.
So it's like,
Yeah,
like
because
do
Paul George and Russell
you
Westbrook seem to have something.
does Kawhi have a thigh bruise that he needs a couple of games off and you start him? Do you use is James Harden your leverage piece against the new uh low management rules? Does he give you that, additional ace in the hole? Because Card, it's just these guys are older. That's the only thing.
Mhm.
Basketball's a young man's game, except there's a few exceptions to the rule and the way the NBA is just allowed that to just be the standard. The Warriors getting whatever they want. The Lakers are making all these trades every single year. Right, wherever LeBron goes, they make a bunch of trades, especially the last few years. James Harden getting whatever he wants. Kyrie's going wherever he kind of wants. KD's getting what he wants. So the league is kind of like hitched their wagon to like 6 or 7 guys, and it's like, hey, you guys six. We'll go 6 to 8, maybe 9 guys. We're gonna put you guys on opening night. We're gonna put you on Christmas. You're gonna be on the billboards. We're gonna put you in the commercials that we play during the game. We need you to carry us. Problem is, 3 or 4 of these guys want to be on the same team all the time. So now I can't put Orlando, Detroit primetime Christmas.
So, what do you think about what Philly got back?
I honestly I didn't really look at it because I didn't
So,
hear a single name that was like worth having back.
yeah, that's how I feel. They got Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum. They got
Nick
little Kenyon
Batum is our
Martin.
age.
They got little Kenyon Martin. And then they got a 2028 unprotected first round pick, 2 second-round picks, and
2028
a 2029 swap,
will be 46 when that draft happens.
and and a first round pick by way of OKC.
46. We'll be 46 when that draft happens. We'll be 46-year-old men when that draft happens.
That's nuts.
Our children will be double digits. All of our children will be double digits in age by the time that draft happens. Think about
That's
that.
nuts. That's
Our kids are
nuts.
Toddlers.
I'll have 2 of them in college.
By the time like my grandkid would be 7. Like, I mean, like let's be real. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like that deal is just basically take the beach house and leave me alone. That's all it is. There's no I imagine that Morris is probably gonna work a buyout.
Yeah. I think Covington will
I don't
be
know where he fits.
I think he'll be a good
Covington
piece to
coming
play
back to
defense.
Philly.
Yeah.
Does he want to come back? Did they shaft him on the way out? Does he
Yeah.
take a buyout and go down to Miami and
Yeah.
play for $2.5 million?
Nick Batum is the ghost of Nick Batum,
Batum
and
will be number 11 on the bench. He gets no
and they
run.
got little Kenyon, so maybe he gives them a little bit of athleticism because that's one of
Maybe
the
Kenny
things.
gives you something.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I feel like Philly is missing. When you're going up against Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, with Donovan Mitchell and Mobley now, and Garland, you go up against the Knicks, like you got RJ Barrett, so I feel
And
like
Julius Randle. You know what I mean? You got guys in New York that can play good basketball.
the point that I was trying to make, which Julius Randle does not fit, was that they have athleticism. Like Philly is real stiff. Like Maxey is fast, but Tobias Harris is not dynamic.
Philly's like the Eastern Conference Lakers.
That actually makes
It's
sense.
like you have what resembles talented players, and if you simply look at talent to wins, you're like, oh, this makes sense because Tobias Harris can do this. This makes sense because Maxey can do this. This makes sense because Embiid is this much better than XYZ. It's the
Right.
same thing you get when you talk about LA. AD can do this. Austin Reeves is up and coming. He could do this. LeBron is this much better. But then when you try to put it all together, they're constantly putting just pieces together and hoping it
Just
works.
because. Yeah, they
Just
just
because you have
like
this
so
this
instead of looking at the players, they're looking at characteristics but not putting the age factor into it, you
age,
know.
how quickly can you move? Can we run San Antonio last night versus Phoenix? I'm willing to guess if we did the math, if we pulled it up right now, the average age of San Antonio's team is, I'm gonna say 24 and a half.
All right. I'll look that up while
So
you
you look
keep
that up.
going.
So I'm gonna say about 24 and a half, 24 to
And oh, by
25.
the way, the Suns and the Spurs play tomorrow too.
So what they're able to do is they can put Wemby on the bench and then just kind of run. Trying to think of the word I want to use.
23.52 years old.
That's what I was, like I said, I was gonna go with 23 and a half at first. Did I say 23 and a half? I said
You
24 and
said
a half.
24 and a half. Yeah, you
24
said
and a half.
24. Yeah.
So what you're allowed to do is just run your defensive sets with energy, and then you can run your offense a lot of ball movement because every one of your players, they're very young. They can move. Wemby was just cutting through the lane, and you got to respect it. But he's so young, he's moving so quick. And then you got guys like Johnson. What's the guy that just got the? I want to mess his name up. Such with the V.
Vassell,
Vassell.
Evan
You could
Vassell, yeah.
he just got the extension. So it was
Yeah, you know what
working
I
for
heard the other
him.
day? Somebody said that he is on a Devin Booker like trajectory.
I can respect that, but the problem is you gotta put them on TV. You gotta keep them together. You gotta allow it to work.
Mm-hmm.
So the trap on Kevin Durant, I would have thought they would have had Wemby out there when he caught the pass. Wemby was in the middle of the floor. They had a couple other guys trap him. Kean Johnson pulled out of his hand, but Wemby was right there. But Wemby was there for the putback.
Man, the
So it
Lakers
wasn't a
are
bunch.
old.
The Lakers are probably averaging about 28 and a half, 29.
29.9. And just for comparison, Golden State is 27.8.
And then you got Philly. What's Philly?
Philly is 27.1.
Just like the Lakers. Lakers at 29,
Mm-hmm.
but that's skewed because you have LeBron. So that kind of bumps it up a little bit. And then you got AD who's 30.
Oh, hold on. Time out. My bad. I was looking at the wrong season. My bad.
Uh,
My bad. Lakers
by
are
the way,
28.1.
still old.
The Warriors are 28.8. So, okay, here's pop quiz. Who's the oldest team in the league?
The Golden State Warriors.
The Clippers.
Oh, that was easy.
29.6.
And this is pre-Harden or post-Harden?
This
When
is
was this
pre-Harden.
article?
This
Oh,
is
so they're
pre-Harden.
by far the oldest team in the league.
I'm trying to find. Hold on, real quick. Keep going. I'm trying to find something. Let's see.
And I want to bring up something that I heard Amon Shumpert say, and this is why I feel like the NBA and fans, you got to be honest with yourself. He was doing an interview. I might have brought this up last week, but he was talking about,
Oh yeah, but
Haha
how can he
Davis.
play right now?
He's
Yeah,
like, because you play right now. He was like, well, yeah, but that's because I don't have to guard Luca and Dame and everybody else. The reason he says that because he's like, Jordan talked about he only wore shoes one game because he played so hard he would like play through his shoes.
yeah,
And then you saw in the Last Dance where he wore the Jordan 1s and his feet were bleeding. It's a different level of athleticism. I remember my father was telling me he went to a Georgetown game back in the probably the early 90s when we were stationed in Northern Virginia. Him and his friend, they snuck down close to the Georgetown bench. He was like, it's a waste of money to sit courtside. He's like, man, these dudes are moving so fast. I couldn't tell what's going on. He was like, I look one way. He was like, it's like a tennis match. He's like, the guys are moving so fast. And that was a college game. So at the NBA level, it was like, I need 22 to 25-year-old guys that can play every night. I don't know what I'm going to do with James Harden, Russ, Kawhi, Paul George. I don't know what I can do with LeBron and AD, even though they are ultra talented historically in the sport. I'm not saying they're past their prime, but just in a sheer numbers game, the Spurs are going to be able to outrun you off of every rebound if they decide. Coach Carter.
OKC.
Plays. I taught you to run. Just run.
OKC.
Rebound and run. We can get because what's the game? If you get 30 fast break points in a game, that is outrageous. But you can get that when you are 23-year-old San Antonio playing against 29.9 30-year-old. Essentially, when you add the James Harden and start lineup or whatever the case, however that works out. I mean, you don't have to be great defensive scheme, but they shoot a lot of threes. Threes turn the long rebounds. So if Chet Holmgren sees the three go up and he's defending Russ, and it's probably going to be off because he's 7'2". It's going to be off. He comes down, he defends it. His feet touch the floor. He just runs up the floor. Giddey gets the rebound, turns. Holmgren's at the rim. Throw it up there.
And don't let Holmgren develop that Kevin Love outlet either.
Giddey's a willing passer, and he's 6'8".
So he got all that energy, since he's my favorite virgin. He got. I
don't know how people let this information out, but
I know. I think it was Chris Leak where when he was at Florida, he said he wasn't going to lose his virginity until they won the national title.
And then Tim Tebow, they said he just show him like little naked pictures, and he would go running high in the locker room, crazy stuff like that. But
yeah, so
that was a young man's game. Ask Tom Segura in his latest stand-up when he talked about he tore his patella and broke his arm at the same time. And the doctor asked him what happened. Car accident? He goes, dunk contest. Because at a certain age, man, it's like you're a superior athlete, but you're also going against other.
No, that's going to be me trying to do this. That's going to be me trying to do this Tough Mudder next week.
Take your time.
You know what I'm saying? And then I didn't know. I didn't know they signed us up for the 15K.
Better get a bike.
It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. You know what I'm saying? So that Tuesday after, it's on Saturday. That Tuesday after, I still might be recovering.
Yeah, he's not dirt in his eyelashes. The trade was inevitable. Like I said, I think both sides ruined the trade value by just not getting a room and say, listen, I'm not going to say shit publicly. You don't say anything publicly because James Harden could have been in Milwaukee.
I see people putting money on the Clippers now to win the title.
That's because people don't understand how, clocks work and how calendars work. There's no reason to believe that the Clippers are going to win the championship. There's no evidence to support it.
Correct.
Not one.
Correct. I guess whenever.
Unless your argument is they got James. Yeah, they got a bunch. They don't have 2014 Paul George.
Well, whenever Kawhi takes his sabbatical, they got an extra fill-in now.
But even with that, it's like I think you can win if they play 20 games between now and the end of this calendar year, between now and Christmas. Yeah, you probably can go 13-7, 14-6. But are you going to be able to sustain that through March to lock yourself in a position of where you're in position to be a number one seed?
Avoid the play-in,
or either be in a number one, number two seed, because Denver seems to be very complete. They have their core players work together. Dame Lillard and Giannis, that seems like it could work, but it's still new.
It's early right now, but Denver's second in points given up. Defensive points given up per game. So, Denver got a defense. If can they hold that up? Can they maintain that?
Especially if your best defender is going to have to guard Jamal Murray. Your biggest defender is going to have to guard Jokic.
So hopefully your biggest defender is good.
If not, Jokic is going to just terrible pass.
Well, see, that's why I thought that Denver got lucky last year in the fact that, not lucky, but you know what I mean. They avoided the Warriors. Yeah, that they avoided the Warriors because I think the Warriors could have still gave them a matchup problem. Like,
Nah, I don't think so.
no, I think you would have put Draymond on him.
On Jokic?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think
because I mean,
Draymond would have
remember
got
at one point,
frustrated.
Hachimura was the Jokic stopper.
Didn't he average like almost a triple double in that series? No one's a stopper of great players. It's a matter of like the role players. Can you,
Who's going to hit the threes? Is what it
you
comes
know,
down to now. Like in the NBA Finals, it came down to Strus and Vincent weren't hitting their shots. Like
I give you that.
because I think Strus game one he went like 0 for 9 or something like that. So
0
like
for 9 or 0 for 10 or something like that. But he
yeah,
came
like
back game two, which I think that game two is a game that they won. I think it was a
Denver was
physicality.
just too big. They were just too big.
They were too big. Gary Payton Jr. was in the paint and didn't even look at the rim.
They did have what's the word I'm looking for? They were big and skilled. Like Looney's big, but he's like an ogre. You know what I mean? Like
There's
Jokic,
highlights of him from high school. He was a beast.
but
But most of
Jokic,
these guys were beasts in
but
high
but,
school.
but Jokic and Aaron Gordon, like Aaron Gordon's that like prototypical guy that you want in today's league.
He was your guy that was like, yo, this is my role. Watch how I dominate this position. Watch
Right.
how I defend hard. And they know he loves to dunk.
Like
So they get him out on
I
fast
can
break.
guard LeBron and I can switch over to AD and our defense doesn't suffer.
Yeah, and I can beat LeBron on a fast break, and I can beat AD. So I can beat the other team's best players off the rebound on a break and defend them in the half court.
Right.
And my team respects me, they'll give me the rock.
Right.
Like they'll give me the ball and they'll look for me on a fast break. Like, so that's the piece is like JaVale McGee threw up this aggressive ass hook shot. I can't believe he's still in the league. I like him
I
though,
know.
but I didn't think he still would be in the league.
Shaq the fool.
Yeah, I guess his mom had to call him. But yeah, so the NBA, it was good. It was good to have a trade. We talked about the NFL. NFL just seemed like Washington dumped their players off, and I think that Devontae Adams trade probably would have been the most impactful trade. I think the only team that would have really made a real offer at this point in the season that really needed them would be Kansas City.
And they weren't going to do that.
They weren't going to do that in division. It's
Yeah.
like I couldn't see them doing that. But I did notice McCall Hardman didn't get 17 when he came back to Kansas City. So I was thinking maybe I don't know who 17 is on the roster right now in Kansas City. But I was like maybe they were like holding out, hoping that they could get Devontae Adams and kept 17 available. But that's just me
Well,
being
even with San
a
Francisco, like
non-research conspiracy theorist.
even with San Francisco, like what are the chances that they bring Chase Young back next year? They just paid Hargrave and I'm sure they paid Bosa not too long ago.
I think Bosa's still trying to get paid.
Oh yeah, he might be.
held out
Oh
this
yeah,
year.
because he was going to hold out. Yeah. There was somebody else. Hold on, I had it in my notes. There was somebody else that they paid besides Hargrave. No,
Like,
I
who
think
do
they
you
did.
think?
I think they did pay Bosa. Like he held out, but I think they paid him. Like
I think he held out and he came in.
yeah, I think they paid him when he came in.
Like, who do you think should have made a move? Like NBA wise, who
Yeah,
do you
they gave
think
him 5 years, 170 with 122.
Oh yeah,
and
we
a half.
talked about that.
Yeah. So like so he came back and got paid. So
Got paid.
now that they paid him and Hargraves, they can't really have the money to pay Young too.
No, Chicago's gonna pay Chase Young next year.
And put him back with Sweat.
Because when I watched the game the other night, they kept talking about how much cap money Chicago had. And that's another thing that hurt James Harden in this deal was that most teams didn't have the assets or the cachet available to trade for you without hurting their team. The
Right.
Clippers doesn't hurt their team. To give up those pieces that they gave up and like the picks or whatever in the future, and who knows what the state of college basketball or even amateur basketball is going to be in 5 years.
I love these
Where
stats. Terrence
so
Mann 8-0 against LeBron James.
yeah, I saw that somebody posted it and went on some kind of like
And he's
rant
not
about
even playing tonight.
Texas.
He's not even playing tonight. They're still
Who's
up
the
by
home game?
11.
Is it home for the Lakers or home for the Clippers? What color is the floor?
This the Lakers.
It's the Lakers, so they got the
Yeah.
banners up.
Yeah.
I'm watching. I got the Golden
got
State
the-
Warriors
They got
Kings
the
game on.
they got the grape and urine on the floor. Yeah, so the play-in starts Friday. We talked about that briefly, and I just want to say, I am not for the play-in, but I am here
Tournament.
for Denver
The
versus
in-season
Dallas.
tournament.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Denver versus Dallas. I am here for that Friday night. So, I'll be watching that, but not because it's the play-in tournament, just because it's Luka and Jokic.
The in-season tournament. Listen, if we're gonna be world famous podcasters,
dude,
that's you're not a big fan of it. And honestly, like my thing is, they're doing it. They're doing something. Baseball tried it with the clock. NFL tried it with what the NFL do to kind of like bullshit things. Made
the
it more
NFL just let the offensive, they just let the offense do what they want.
Kind of do whatever they want. And then that's how you know a defensive player is really, really good. That's how you know Sauce Gardner is as good as advertised, considering like his rookie year and what he didn't give up in receptions and touchdowns and things of that nature, considering the way the game's molded. So like my thing is like the NBA, you're trying, the owners are trying to take the power back, of the governors. Is that the word, the vernacular
Yeah,
we're
the
using now?
governors. Yeah, we don't use that word no more.
They're trying to take the power back from the players, and I respect it. But the only reason they're doing it and it makes sense is because even the fan bases are like, yeah, we're good with you not giving these old dudes $45 million a year. But if you get a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who else? John Morant, Zion Williamson, SGA, Holmgren. When these guys start becoming the marquee players, and you get LeBron, who's, I mean, realistically, best case scenario, he has to retire at the end of next season. Can't go longer than that, right?
I mean,
healthy through this year, healthy through next year. But I mean, how many years you want to go 37 and 45?
Oh no, I wouldn't be opposed to him leaving after this season.
That's from, but I doubt it because he's gonna want his farewell tour.
Yeah,
he's gonna want his Kobe, like the way how Draymond Green told Paul Pierce, like, "You're not Kobe. They don't love you like that." So I imagine that he's gonna make the announcement. So wherever Bronny ends up next year, but at some point, you're gonna get back to where the players have a little bit more leverage. But right now, the guys that want leverage are just old. So it makes it look like the owners are really doing their thing, but really they're just making smart business decisions. Like, I'm not giving you 4 years, $40 million a year when you're 37 years old.
Yo, what did the Lakers get back when they gave up Zubac?
Heartache. They gave him up for nothing. Whoever they gave him up for,
because I feel like he kills the Lakers every time. Like they play each other. Like
it was. I
like
remember
the
Skip
difference.
Bayless talked about that a lot. Either Skip Bayless or Nick Ray. One of the people on Fox Sports One talked about how they basically gave up Zubac for nothing, because I remember the deal when a trade happened and Zubac was in it. I don't know who the trade was for, but I remember thinking, like, why'd they give him up? Because he was young, big body.
Beasley and Mike Muscala.
And Michael Beasley's out here making Instagram basketball videos.
Yeah, and Mike
I think he might be in the big three.
I think Mike Muscala's on the Wizards now.
Mike Muscala, when he on the
He was on the
what's it
Thunder
called?
for a minute.
I thought he was on the Celtics last year.
He might have been. He's on the Wizards now, though.
It's only like 12 American-born white basketball players, and it's
Yeah, he was on Boston last year, but yeah, he left Oklahoma. Like he was with Oklahoma City, then Boston, and now he's with the Wizards. So yeah, like
so yeah. I don't think the James Harden trade changes the landscape of the hierarchy of the Western Conference.
maybe it helps the Clippers win a series. Maybe that's the difference.
But they were going to win a series.
Maybe.
I'm not. This is not an indictment on James Harden's talent. I just don't think that he has the same level of impact as an individual that people think.
Yeah.
It's like that name and the James Harden you're thinking about is from 2018. That's the last like definitive best player in the league conversation, and then after that he just kind of stopped.
I think D'Angelo Russell better.
Because you don't want to be better.
Yeah,
I think he wants to be D'Lo. He wants to be, and that's it. Because I saw a video, James. It was like LeBron James in the timeout or like in the huddle on the sideline was like, "Hey, when I come here and I screen, on the pick and roll, I could pop here to be open." He was like, "I know what they're gonna do. This is what I do. This is what I do. I know things, type of thing." They came out and D'Angelo Russell came. The screen came. He called for the screen, and then D'Angelo Russell shot a 3-point off the dribble. But he had just explained to him, "Give me the ball here. You'll be open here," and he just shot it. Like I said,
there's like so many teams that I look back at, then we'll wrap this up. But like, I be sitting there, I'd be like, yo, the Warriors. I mean, not the Warriors, the Wolves, the T-Wolves. They had Wiggins and Levine, and then got Cat, and it was just like y'all couldn't make that work. Like, not even like y'all.
They had Jimmy Butler and Cat at the same time, right?
They did, because that was the whole thing. When he took the third stringers and beat everybody, and he was going
Jeff
at Cat.
That story is so funny. He's like, Jimmy Butler didn't shoot the ball.
But like my whole thing is like, obviously not everybody can win a title. Not everybody can be a contender. But it's like with the three of them, how did that not at least like they put fear in somebody?
How could you not build around three young talented
Why couldn't they have been the new OKC? Like obviously, like
Orlando's going to do the same thing. Market. What's today? Right now, I'm in. Okay, so it's still November 1st.
Yeah, November 1st.
Orlando's going to do it. Detroit's going to do it. OKC's going to do it. They're going to have a young core of three, and they're going to have an opportunity to say, you know what? Let's build around this core. Let's pay what we got to pay for rookie extensions, veteran exemptions, whatever it is we got to do. Let's keep the coach. Let's keep the core. And they're not going to do it. Orlando won't do it. Detroit won't do it. OKC won't do it. Houston won't do it. All these young teams are going to look and think that I can bring in a guy like Kyrie, or I can bring in James Harden, I can bring in Kawhi, I can bring in Paul George when he's done with his contract, and they're going to move their young talent, and they're going to bring in a guy.
Not everybody could do what LaMelo and Brandon Miller doing, huh?
They're going to botch it. It just
43.8% from three.
It's the nature of the NBA. They do not Like Harrison Barnes is still playing basketball.
Yep. And still playing the exact same way too.
Yeah. But Golden State didn't break up their big three. They had a couple of years where they were down, and then Wardell broke his hand, and they were like, "Well, let's charge this year. Let's charge it. It is what it is. Let's get some development. Let's see what we got."
But it's over though. It's over now. It's over now. No more titles for them. It's over.
I mean, you're probably right, but you're not like you're really out on the ledge.
No, this is my Max Kellerman. This is my Max Kellerman off the cliff moment when Steph's going to come back and average 36 in the finals and win another finals MVP.
It would be chaos if that's the case. I'm so sick of these teams kicking everything out to the 3-point line. There you go, Sabonis. What are you getting there?
I know it, but yeah. So, but yeah, like I don't know, man. Like, it's still real early in the season, so we'll see how the season develops. But so far, so good. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far.
Like I'm deliberately looking out. Like, granted, yes, I want to see the Warriors. I think they move the needle, but I'm not gonna not watch basketball until the game is Warriors Lakers.
Yeah,
like I'll watch Warriors OKC whenever that game is.
Yeah, we travel on the island of relevancy around here.
Yeah, I want to see Houston. I want to see Orlando and Detroit, so I can see the brothers play against each other.
Hey, Detroit's been looking good so far. I'm impressed. The Twins, both of them, it's going to be a long season, as they get it together because, by my statistical tracking, let me find my paper. By my statistical paper,
Klay Thompson has no drip. What up?
Asar is shooting 32.4% from the field.
That's not good.
14% from three. Amen coming in tonight was better at 42% and 20 from three. Brandon Miller we talked about before we came on.
Scoot Henderson.
Scoot Henderson. That's what I meant to say.
5.6% from three.
Yeah, 33% from the floor. 8.3 points, 4 assists. So remember, this is the guy they gave up Dame for. But how about Wemby? 2.3 blocks and Chet with 2.8 blocks a game. So, Brandon Miller is the leading rookie scorer right now, 17.3 points per game.
The only person that confidently shoots over Wemby is Kevin Durant. Nobody else will have that same level of confidence.
Yep, and I will be watching it tomorrow night, flipping in between Steelers and Titans with a little bit of Duke Wake Forest and TCU Texas Tech because I'm a sicko.
Yo, the man's obsessed.
Watching it all. So, but on that note, y'all, it's midnight for Mr. Logical. I got to get up in like 6 hours. So we're going to bid you adieu, but not without saying, oh, wrong one. Without saying that we love you.
Yeah.
Hit y'all with that 2-5 daily. We'll be back later this week. Peace.
You're